sometimes people are empowered to do things, but they aren't equipped to do things. Some leaders are put in place by default, but they lack in some of the competency areas that are needed to really lead with strength.
It's believed that over the next 9 years, there's about 30,000 full vocational pastors stepping out of ministry. I'm seeing a lot of younger leaders that are kind of stepping into in this baton pass. How do I lead people that are older than me?
So it is tricky, but if they are empowered and not equipped, that could be the end of them. You could really hurt a person that has such great potential. What do I mean when I say equipping this leader? One, we have to infuse a certain level of confidence in them. They have to know that they have been called of the Lord and appointed by the leaders of this church. God has anointed you for this. Everything that you need is inside of you, and you will not do this job or any job well without knowing that.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Amazing Kidsmin podcast. Each week, we talk and sit down with some incredible next gen and family ministry leaders. And this is 100% no exception this week because we've got a really special guest. We've got someone who is not just well versed in the family ministry space, but is an incredible leader, engages parents really well, comes from an
You.
educational background, and also just loves Jesus so deeply that they do whatever it takes to help other people love Jesus more as well. So please give an incredible, Amazing Kidsman podcast welcome to none other than Keturah Boston. Hi, Keturah.
Hi, Tyler. Thank you so much. You're so
Oh,
sweet.
no. I mean, I'm so glad you took time to come hang out with us. You've been in the next gen space for a long time. How long have you been in this space?
This year will make 25 years.
I just want to I don't know if people are listening to this. If you're not listening and you're watching, you're going to understand what I'm about to say. There's no did you start when you were 4? There's no way that you've been in this space for 20. And I say that as I have a baby face. So
Oh my
people are like,
gosh.
"Who's this 18-year-old?" But wow,
That's so
that's
funny.
awesome. 25 years.
Yeah.
How did you get into it? Did you grow up in church or in kids ministry, or was it something that you found later on in life?
Interesting. So it was kind of both of those things. I quit church mentally when I was in about the fifth
Okay.
grade. I was like, soon as I'm old enough not to have to go to church, I'm not going because my family was in church all the time. Like, not my mom, but like my great
Yes.
grandparents, my grandparents, my great aunts and
Yep.
uncles. And I spent a lot of time being raised by them. And so, because of that, every time they went, I was there. And I remember one Sunday morning asking, "Hey, can I just not go to church today?" And my mom was like, "No, as long as you live in this house, you are going to go to church." So, from that moment, I was like, I'm very compliant. Yes, ma'am. Okay. But I made up my mind that as soon as I turned 18, I was not going to go to church anymore. And so when I turned 18, I didn't go to church for maybe 6 months, and then by the time I turned 19, I was back in and became, my parents' I guess, children's pastor to a certain degree. I was the youngest person old enough to be left alone with the kids, and so it started there, and I was like, "Hey, I'm back in church, and where am I? Serving kids."
There it is.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. And so you that's where it all started, but you have an incredible resume. And I'm not saying this to make you feel good about yourself or to just talk you up, but you've got a background that spans kids ministry, education, school leadership, organizational counseling. How do all these worlds come together for you? How is that? Because it feels like you have found a sweet spot that it all clicks together. How has that journey come together?
Yeah. I think that, the long short of it is that I've discovered that your destiny is not one place. It's a series of decisions that lead you to different seasons where you are called to something new in each of those seasons. And it just grows upon the thing that it starts with because God is that intentional. And so I was called to serve God before I was called to serve anywhere. And then I was called to ministry before I was called to my career. And so my career did not inform my ministry work. The ministry that God placed in my heart informed my career. And so when that happened, I just made a whole ministry of just being available. I wanted to teach and to share everything that God was putting in front of me and teaching me with anyone who was willing to listen.
Clip that and play it for every Gen Z and millennial, please. Like someone, and then play it twice. Like let her go through it and then play it again. Cause that's an, you said like my ministry started long before my career. Like that is all
Yes.
of that, that God is intentional. Like your destiny is things that continue to grow into. And I agree. Like it's decisions that you make and the way that you grow. And so it's really cool when you can
Yes.
look back and see like God wastes nothing as you are continue to be obedient or to grow yourself and grow in the things and the gifts that he has for you. And so you've
100%.
found yourself leading different ministries. You and your husband both, you get to work together, right?
Yeah. Yes, we
Okay.
do.
And he's very impressive in and of himself, incredible leader, very charismatic. He does a great job. But you guys, as you've stepped in and you've led in different organizations and in different roles, um, what do you usually when you step into a ministry, what are you like the first 30 days, what are you assessing and looking for before you kind of action like, okay, here's what we're going to do and this is what we're going to do. Like, what are you assessing?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm honestly wanting to organically get to know people and like genuinely learn how people do what they're doing, why they do what they're doing. And I think that's really the first 30 days. I mean, I'm watching how people interact with each other, how teams, how staffs engage one another. I'm looking at how families interact and engage, how kids interact and engage. Whether I'm talking to corporate leaders or ministry leaders, that's really a learning period. And I would even say the first 15 days is kind of where that happens the most. But I'm asking questions and I'm leaning in with a whole lot of curiosity. I do not show up assuming that I have answers for anyone's circumstance. At best, if I leave and you feel like you have been seen and heard and acknowledged for the work you are doing, and I don't have solutions, that's still something of a win for me because I do believe that God does care more about the people and who they are and what's going on in their lives than just what they do and how they show up and serve others. And so I'm always leaning in with curiosity first.
Wow. Do you ever find yourself battling or having to fight? Because you over 25 years, you have a lot of experience and in different backgrounds, but
Hmm.
how do you fight or at least hold the tension of not coming and copying and pasting what you know was working here and just like copying it and pasting it here because it's a different place? Do you like what do you do intentionally to make sure that you're building something specific for where God has you now? We know that kids ministry leaders are always trying to figure out how they can get the most bang for their buck when it comes to tools and curriculum. At Amazing Life, we believe the world's greatest mission deserves the world's best tools. And that's why we're constantly adding more to Amazing Plus, our complete 0 to 18 ministry strategy. Everything you need to lead the next generation, a comprehensive curriculum adapted to every age's specific development, world class media to teach kids in engaging ways, and a custom parent app to engage families Monday through Saturday. Now, we have smart software to build your services, presentation software for every scenario, and leadership training tools, and believe it or not, so much more. You can try Amazing Plus for free for 30 days right now. Go to joinamazing.com/free trial or click the link in the description. Now, back to the podcast.
It really goes back to that listening and learning what the unique needs are and who people are because you can have similar situations and there are times where I see something and I immediately think I have a strategy for this and I think this might fit
Yeah.
here, but it's in the learning, it's in the asking of the questions and not making assumptions because sometimes asking a question could be kind of imposing my strategy in there and saying, have you tried this? I wonder what would happen if we thought about it maybe in this way and offering another perspective. So sometimes I am kind of navigating in there with some strategy, but I'm really asking a question and I'm not doing it to be sneaky or manipulative. I really want to kind of share something or add a perspective that may not have been considered, but giving people the opportunity for themselves to critically think and maybe just wonder or reimagine some of the way they've done things without feeling attacked by an outsider or a stranger, because that's really the last thing I want. And if people can't see that I care first, they're not going to care about my resume or 25 years of experience or how many ministries or organizations I've helped. They wanna know that I actually care about them and what they do because they are working hard.
Hmm.
They are trying their very best, and anything that they're not doing is probably more of a result of them having a lack of exposure or them not having, the right leadership. Sometimes people are empowered to do things, but they aren't equipped to do things. Some leaders are put in place by default where they are promoted because someone else left, and so they had the willing heart. Maybe they have been there long term, so they have longevity and they have the loyalty, but they lack in some of the competency areas that are needed to really lead with strength, but they do have the passion, and I don't think that that's their fault when they're coming up short or when a leader says, "Can you come in and help my so and so person or my so and so person because they're missing the mark?" My question will always be, I would like when can I get to know them? When can I see how they're doing things? Because as a leader, I'm always going to look at how can they be equipped? If they have a desire, how can they be equipped? What do they need? One, to believe in themselves again, because you kind of
Hmm.
feel that when you're missing it or you think you're missing it. I need people to believe in themselves again, first and foremost. Then we can come in and start triaging and see where do you need to be equipped?
There's some data right now that is coming out, and what we're seeing is it's believed that over the next like 9 years, there's about
Mhm.
30,000 full vocational pastors stepping out of ministry, like they're retiring. So the chain usually like everything shifts because of that, and we're watching a lot of handoffs right now, even just in ministry, like the
Sure.
demographic of kids pastors getting younger. Like we're seeing a
Mhm.
baton pass. We're watching some tectonic shifts happen just on various levels, and so I actually get to talk to a lot of newer kids pastors these days who are in the 25 to 35-year-old range, and they have the heart for it and they're trying to grow the competencies. But what they find
Yeah.
themselves sometimes doing is stepping into a role where they're overseeing one, they're stepping into a legacy role of someone who was there.
Mhm.
I was at CPC this past January, and someone amazing guy. He's like 34, and the person who he's stepping in to replace, he's been at this place for 10 years. She founded the kids ministry, and she's going off to retire. And so he said, there I know some of the changes that need to happen, but I also know that there's volunteers and leaders who are going to think that I'm just being disrespectful because, now that she's gone, what do I do? And it asks a bigger question. And this is what the question I'm seeing a lot of younger leaders that are kind of stepping into in this baton pass. How do I lead people that are older than me? How do I lead people as I'm being asked to step into this role? And I feel like I used to be their peer, now I'm this. What would you tell someone like that?
Oh man. So it is tricky. And that takes time, because you do have to, one, again, you move into those roles with curiosity and you move in gently. You move as though you are a guest in that new role because there is some grief that is happening. They are grieving the loss of a way that they have known. They
Yeah.
are grieving the loss of a leader and a relationship that has been established. They are even grieving what they understand children's ministry to be or whatever that department is to be because they were a part of the genesis of it.
Hmm.
And so when you come in immediately wanting to change things, they feel like a part of them is also being ripped away. And there has to be some maturity on both parts, right? That team does need to be galvanized in a way to understand that change done well is a good thing, right? Times are changing, our kids are changing, this world is changing. And so all we're doing is making sure that we're staying pace with it. We're not competing with the world, we're just staying pace with it. And so that does mean that we have to evolve in some ways. The other thing I think is including people in change. Sometimes when you have a vision, God gave that vision to you. And so we can't take it personal when other people don't see the vision and we can't accuse them of being afraid of change. Sometimes they just really don't see what you see because it wasn't them who God showed the vision to. So your job is to paint the picture for them. Like show them the scenario, show them the possibility, show them what is next and what's to come and the role that they play and that their role is vitally important to serving parents and families and continuing to grow this legacy, that the legacy doesn't end, but we are continuing something. We're going to do it together. And I think that there has to be that sense of camaraderie and where there's some buy-in there. They have to know that this is not something that is going to be done to them, but something that they get to be a part of and it'll be done with them.
That's really great. Okay, so with that, that's so helpful. That's practical. You get to you still coach a lot of people, and you get to like you're really great at like coming alongside kids pastors or ministry leaders, and like a lot of different roles, and helping them step into calling them up into leadership. And I want to ask more about that in a second. But
Mhm.
because you've served in different roles, different places, and you get to see other people in different roles in different places, as you look
Mhm.
around, what are some of the gaps you see in kids ministry and leadership that you is often like maybe it's a easy fix, it's not an easy fix, but it's a very common trend and gap that you're watching happen as you step in.
Well, I think one of the trending gaps that I'm seeing is what you just identified, a leader coming in after a leader that's had some longevity and they're being put into position. And again, a lot comes with that. Sometimes those leaders are being promoted up because of their youth or because there's this an assumption that they will bring some vitality to the ministry. But if they are empowered and not equipped, that could be the end of them. You could really hurt a person that has such great potential. And what do I mean when I say equipping this leader? One, we have to infuse a certain level of confidence in them. They have to know that they have been called of the Lord and appointed by the leaders of this church. So if you are there, you have been chosen for such a time as this. So no matter what age you are, leader, if you're listening, if you have been selected, I need you to walk in the calling that God has anointed you for this. Everything that you need is inside of you, and you will not do this job or any job well without knowing that you need him. So let's just take a page from Solomon's book and pray his prayer. Lord, teach me, give me the wisdom to lead your people. I think sometimes we think that um well, maybe we take for granted the necessity of prayer at its foundation. I think we take that for granted. It's not the least you can do. I think it's the first and it's the most that you can do to begin any assignment. And so I would say start there. But the second thing is after that, you have to walk in that calling. It was very similar to David. He's like, who am I? I was just a shepherd boy and I'm the youngest and I'm this and I'm that. In all the ways I'm not qualified, but now I have to lead. And did he get some pushback? Absolutely. Older brothers did not understand. Older family members did not understand, but yet he was called, he was assigned, he was anointed of God to do this work. And so at some point, he had to believe in himself. And so you have to believe that if you are called by God, you have what you need to do this well. Now, that being said, we have to be long life learners. Every leader has to be teachable. Moses was appointed the first judge of Israel. And one day, his father in law, Jethro, comes to visit. He just wants to see his daughter and see the family. And he's watching Moses be completely overwhelmed by this work that he's
Everyone's
doing.
asking
And
him
he calls,
questions like this is wrong, this is but yeah.
yes, and he has to solve all of these problems because he's the new leader. He did not have a blueprint. He was the blueprint. And by all accounts, he could have said, wait a minute, I'm the judge, I'm the man, I've been appointed. But he took his father in law's advice to raise up more leaders, identify, raise up, and equip more leaders at the capacity that they were able so that they could help carry the weight of the work to forward the ministry, to not grieve the people and to not grieve himself, and to thereby multiply the leaders in his circle. And so I follow those types of models. It's there for us. Old Testament and New is showing us that we don't do anything great without the work of the Holy Spirit. And so when you know that you have been called and you're anointed by him, you can do this. But it does take us, one, raising up leaders, and you can't raise up any leader beyond the capacity in which you are. And so that's why I say we have to be teachable. We have to be humble. We need to be asking advice. And despite what you may think, listen carefully to me, leader. Asking questions, saying that you need help, and surrounding yourself with the community, even within that community, and saying, listen, I'm not 100% sure how we go about this. I know what I'm hearing the Lord say, but I want to hear your input. I can't take everyone's advice. I can't do everything that you want, but I need to hear. every idea that is in this room because I think that God is speaking to all of us, and this is how we're going to get this done. That is more of a show of strong leadership. That is a higher show of intelligence and capacity and competency than pretending to know everything and slowly fall and fail while your team and the leaders around you watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm letting that marinate for a second, uh, because I agree with you. I think what I have found, and this may not be true for everyone. Every church is different.
Sure.
There's different flavors, but I think sometimes what I have found is I don't want to over spiritualize, but in an attempt to not over spiritualize, you under spiritualize. And like you said,
Sure.
the Holy Spirit. If the first thing you're not doing is praying and not like just this isn't like a me time. I'm saying like every day for me begins on my hands and knees asking God, what am I doing?
Praise God.
Because I can't. I just like there's just no and it's the
Same.
Moses. I like Exodus 33 has always been one of my favorites. It's like if you don't go with me, if you're not doing this with me, I don't want to go. So I'm not getting up. I'm not walking out the door if you're not the one that's by my
Right.
side doing this because like what's the point? And so that's really helpful.
That's
So I want
right.
to ask this question I wasn't planning on asking. That's really great advice for leaders, and I think even young leaders. Of it's okay to throw the hand up and say, "I need help." If there's a leader, as we look across the landscape of ministry right now, whether it's student ministry, kids ministry, senior leadership, and we're watching God do this thing where it feels like we're in transition at the moment, like in ministry
Mhm.
wise. If there's a leader here and like let's say they've been in ministry for the past 35, 40 years, 45 years,
Sure.
and maybe they feel like this tugging, like this nudging, like this leading, that God's, maybe there's something new, something else, but they don't know how to go about it. What does it look like? Or maybe, because they planted this and because they stewarded this ministry for so long, they can't even fathom what does it look like to hand this off to the next thing or to do. What would you tell that leader? What would you tell that leader who it's like, man, you, what's next?
So, first, I would say to that leader, especially now if you're listening, or if you can share this with a leader who needs to hear this, I would say first, thank you. Thank you for serving. Thank you for allowing the rest of us to stand on your shoulders. Thank you for giving us a model. Thank you for giving us a place to serve and lead. There are people on your team that never saw themselves serving or leading at the capacity in which you've allowed them to and entrusted them to. So, thank you. And also, you do not have to resign, retire, or die on your post. Your legacy is in the leadership that you are leaving and the people that have served alongside you. Every impartation, every team meeting, every time you prayed for a kid or baptized or loved on a family or visited a hospital or attended a funeral or planned lessons or curriculum or purchased snacks for classrooms and stayed after church or had a meeting with someone before service started. All of that is a part of your legacy. And what I would say to you is look very carefully at those around you who need what you did not have. Pour that into them. If you want to know what your assignment is next, before maybe you step away from this part of ministry, look for those who you need to pour into. And if you've been pouring into, now give them the confidence to know that they have your blessing to do the next thing that God is telling them to do. Reassure those around you, family, senior leaders, assure them that God is with this ministry. He's always been with this ministry and he'll continue to be with this ministry and with the young people in this ministry that he cares and he sees. I think I would want the leader listening to be unburdened and be free of the weight of not knowing what is next because you're not washed up. You may not be finished. There may be something else that God is calling you to. And I would say, spend this time before the Lord asking Him to lead you and to show you what ministry after this looks like. It very well could be just pouring into and walking alongside of parents and families and marriages and just all different kinds of things. Like there's the work of the ministry is just never done. And if you've been around and you've seen all the things that you've seen, I assure you there is so much more inside of you. There are questions that people don't even know to ask you, but the wisdom and the wealth of knowledge there is probably deeper than our buckets and ropes could reach to even draw from. So I would just implore that leader to reach very deeply into where you can pour, what reassurances you can give, and to just lean into what the Lord is saying for now, because no one's ministry is really ever over. It's always the next thing. This is not, destiny is not a destination, right? Not until we're done. It's a series of next calls that you respond to when the Lord is calling you. So be encouraged.
That's so good. And how do you personally, how does God speak to you, or how do you identify when God's asking you to step into something different? Because, we all have those moments and God speaks to everyone differently. But like for you personally, like what does it look
Mm,
like when you start to feel
mhm.
that tug, or like, I think God might be doing something here?
So I can say most recently, but in every season, I've seen the same thread whenever God is calling me to transition. It's almost like what pregnant mothers feel before their due date. And so, men, I may lose you for a moment, but hang in there. So, there's this urge to tidy up things and get things ready. And so here's an example that everyone may be able to relate to. You know families coming in town maybe the week in advance, right? You're expecting guests, but there's something about the first or last 2 hours just before they get there where you are pacing your place and you are looking, did I do this? Did I do that? What else do I need to do? It's that sense of urgency and kind of restlessness. That's what I tend to
Yeah.
feel. Like, is everything done? Did I do everything I needed to do? If I fell asleep right now and the doorbell rang, could my kids open the door and know what to do? Like, is everything going to be okay? I start feeling that sense of, I've done everything I can, everything is settled, everything is right, and I'm looking for what else I need to do. So it's like that both and. It's a settling and what do I do now?
Yeah.
Now that everything else is done, now that everything is settled, what do I do now? Because my hands are empty. And so when my hands are empty, if you're watching this and not listening, I'm showing my hands being palm up. And I'm saying, God, I've settled everything, palms down, and I'm open to what's next. And it's just a feeling. It's like you know in your knower that either this is finished and it's settled, or God, what is there next? And you're open to that. And when your heart is postured like for God, what is next? I'm ready. Whatever you say, I'll say yes. And mean it with your whole heart, trusting that God's plans for you are good. You're not going to hate it. I know sometimes it's a scary thing to say, God, whatever you say do, I'll do. Wherever you say go, I'll go. But internally, that can be a really scary thing because you will be tested on your level of trust. How much do you really trust God? And so I feel like I have enough history with God to say that his past faithfulness warrants my present
Yeah.
trust in all things. And so that feeling for me is like, God, I feel it. I feel you. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I know that I can do it. Even if I'm afraid, I'll still do it because I know that you're with me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That Chris and I, you've met Chris, like here at Amazing Life. We were talking last week about
Hmm.
just how often in the Bible, like, when it says they believed, it can be translated to faithful. Like people
Hmm.
who are faithful. And you look at the kind of the hall of faithfulness, like the greats, like the people who
Hmm.
really stepped, like Abraham, who didn't know what was next, but he left and stepped into the unknown, just believing. Like,
Absolutely.
and I was telling Chris, like, I think for me, my biggest piece that I sometimes feel like I want to continue to grow in is what we spend a lot of time on, like, just do it. Like, just, and I want to trust God. I do. I want to be so good at, all right, I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to do it. But there's like the first part that we have to be really good at as well is Abraham knew what God's voice sounded like. Like when God spoke to him, he was able to identify it. He could listen and hear God's voice, and then he was obedient to it. And so like are we intentional enough to know like, hey, I have to make sure that like when was the last time God said
So
something to you?
good.
And am I still walking in obedience of that? And is the has
Mm.
that season come to an end? And is he asking something new of me? Because Someone once said, God speaks to everybody differently, but usually speaks to one person the same way for most of their life, you know? And so, like, for me, God, it's kind of like you in a little bit where there's a restlessness that happens. Like, I start to feel this stirring of like, okay, something's up. But God will speak pretty directly. And like, he always speaks to
Mhm.
me in questions. Like, it's not really ever just like this is what you're doing. It's like hey, would you want to? Would
Yeah.
you be willing? Hey, like, what do you think about? And then like that starts to stir, and then I start to see, you see the doors start to, and you're like, "Oh man, are you asking me? Are you okay? Fine, like let's do this."
Yeah.
But I like there's just this sweet sensitivity that I think you're in your maturity in Christ, you
Mhm.
also have to grow in. And like the Holy Spirit helps us hear God's voice and knowing like, okay, I think this is God asking this. And so like those are some of my favorite leaders that I've ever gotten to serve under. And it's not because it's like they're telling me what God's telling me. Like, but I know that they've heard God's voice. And so when they're saying, hey, this is what we're doing, I think that this is what God's asking us to do. It's like, oh, I trust that you know God's voice. And even if we get it wrong, I'd rather be wrong trying to go after what God has for us as opposed to like, man, this is the best strategy we've ever had in our life. So I just really connect with that. I think that's really good. Just, hey, we're going to be faithful and that stirring and that, okay, God, I think you're okay. I'm going to trust you, even if this is hard. And it may not always be hard in the way we think it's hard. Sacrifice looks different in different seasons, but that's so good. If people wanted to connect with you because I think you're really good. I honestly don't know how many hours of sleep you get a week because I think you accomplish more in a week than a lot of people accomplish in a month. You're leading a ministry, you're
Oh, you're
coaching a
kind.
lot of people, you do a lot of things. But if there were people listening being like, how do I get a dose of Keturah in my life? More like what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yes, so there's a few ways. You can always find me on
Okay.
Instagram. For some people, that's easier. So Keturah Boston on Instagram, and I also have an Instagram page called the Family Ministry Messenger. That is also on Instagram. And then I have a very easy email, keturahboston@gmail.com. You can always reach out. And that's one of the better ways to get me. If you want to talk about things going on with your church or you want to see what I have coming up right now, my husband and we're leading a cohort for leaders on some next gen research and what you can do. It's not too late to get involved in that. I don't know by the time this airs, we could be on our next session. So, still, if you are interested and would like some one to one coaching that we provide through that as well, send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram, and that would be a great way to contact me. I'm not too busy where I don't see those things. I'm not that popular.
That's you're being too modest. But here's the funny thing is, and like it's like we got through like a third of like I have so many questions for you. So like I'm asking you, really putting you on the line in front of everybody else that's listening and watching right now. Will you come back so we can talk some more? Okay,
Absolutely.
good. Because
And I mean it with my
oh,
whole
I
heart.
I do too. I like that's why I wanted to pressure you by asking you while we're recording this and not after we stop
Oh
recording. So
gosh.
like everyone else is going to hold you accountable to this too. So, but thank you for spending some time with us. Like seriously, thank you.
Oh, I appreciate this. You've done an amazing job. And can I say that I appreciate the last thing that you said about just hearing God's voice. He says that his sheep know his
Mhm.
voice and the voice of another they will not hearken unto. And I love that you are speaking to people who can listen and be reassured that we do know his voice. Sometimes we second guess ourselves and we're wondering, is that me? Is that my flesh? But we do need to give ourselves a lot more grace and know that if we've been walking with the Lord and we've been hearing his voice for this amount of time, we can have some confidence in that maybe some of our thoughts are becoming more aligned with him and his word. And so we can trust when we hear from God. And so I think it was really powerful that you shared that. So I just wanted to give a nod to you. So listeners, I hope that you caught what Tyler was saying in that moment because it meant a lot to me.
Well, you're really kind. I mean, this is the first of many. So, thanks for coming on
Yeah,
and everyone listening,
sure.
thanks for hanging out with us and we'll catch you next week. I hope you have an amazing week.